unless we really wanted to hack that out. Hey guys, welcome to Wild Hope Homestead. We had our first proper frost this morning at -3 degrees, which is as cold as it usually gets here. We had very slight frosts the last 2 mornings, but definitely a chilly one this morning. I've had the kumara laying out on a single layer on a bit of cardboard outside in the sun while it's sunny, to help their skins cure so that they store better. So we'll do that for a few days. I've just been putting them back into this big pot and bringing that inside at night because it's been at or below freezing. I suppose they did a little bit better than I expected. Would have been nice to get more though, but we got a total of 11.1 kgs from one row, and the biggest one was just over 500 grams. It was interesting to see because all the bigger ones were on the side where Angus was digging, closer to the tomato row, which is the side that I planted the shoots or tupu or slips out first. So the timing obviously has a lot to do with how well they do, because all the bigger ones were on that side, and yeah, a lot of the places on the side that I was digging, they just weren't very big. There wasn't much there. And also down the far end where there was a lot of competition from weeds, they weren't as big. So obviously keeping the weeds down helps, and I'll be looking back at when I planted that first lot. I know I'd gotten the later ones planted out later because the shoots weren't ready sooner, so all part of the learning. It's only the third time I've grown kumara actually. The first time was, I don't know, a fair few years ago now, and I planted them in one of the raised beds. It must have been the first thing I planted in there, and I'd read that they liked sandy soil, and we had an old remnants of an old sand pit, which is where the chicken pen now is, sort of around the front of where the chicken coop is. It was all quite different there. There was a fence and everything, trees, stumps that we got rid of, and an old falling apart fort. And so I put a lot of sand in there, a little bit too much sand, and they were a heritage variety, can't remember what it was, that I bought, and they didn't do that well. I planted some in the raised bed and some in, was it 1 or 2 pots, big pots, with the same soil. Like I did mix compost in, but it was too sandy and they didn't taste very good. And I don't know, their skins were kind of tough. They just weren't very nice. So I'm not sure how much of that was that the soil was too sandy and how much of that was the variety or other factors, I don't know. Then the 2022-2023 season, I grew some in one of the rows in the front plot. It wasn't quite a whole row. And I just got those planted too late and we only got sort of tiny ones like chip size really. So that was the first time growing in the open ground, and then this is the second year growing in the open ground in the front plot where they obviously got in sooner, at least some of them got in sooner and have done better, so that's good. I'm glad we got them out before the frost as well, that helps. And now we'll be able to have some yummy kumara to eat. All of these kumara were grown from store-bought store-bought kumaras, I call them the mother kumaras, which I set in jars of water to sprout on the windowsills. So actually, and most of them were red. I did do some orange ones as well, but the orange ones were terrible at sprouting. I don't know what happened, and so I only got a few small shoots off them. So I at least got something grown from them, but they weren't very good. Mother ones, obviously. The red ones did much better. 11.1 kgs of kumara for free. Today I am going to try and at least get part of the timber rack on the back wall over there started. So I've measured everything up and pulled some bits of timber out of our pile. It will become more clear as I go, but basically what I'm using is 2x4s. They're dressed, so they're a little bit smaller than 2x4s that Steve picked up from somewhere. We're going to have 2 long verticals wherever there are studs that go the full length of the wall, and then there are going to be 2 smaller ones that go down this end. And before we attach them to the wall, I'm going to put shorter rungs on them. So those will be the 4 verticals, and then there'll be horizontal rungs that stick out. That will be about 36 centimetres long. So there'll be 2 rungs on these shorter bits, and then there'll be 4 rungs on these longer bits, and then the timber will sit on those along the back of the wall. The wall's only 2.87 metres long up to my first chicken shelf back there, so it's not going to fit the longest bits of timber, but in order to fit my chicken equipment and everything else in here, that's what we can manage, so that's okay. It wouldn't work very well having bits that are longer than that in here anyway, because that's really hard to manoeuvre off. They would be really hard to manoeuvre off the rack and out the door around all the other things. So ideally it would be better to have a timber storage rack along a side wall to get them out the door more easily. Yeah, but yeah, that just doesn't really work in here. The workbench is fixed to this side wall, so unless we really wanted to hack that out, I think this workbench is actually bolted into the concrete floor anyway, so I don't think that can be moved. So anyway, the back wall is where it's at for at least most of the timber storage of what we've got sitting around. It'll help. And for the metal pipes or conduit and other small bits of plywood and things that we've got sitting around in here. So it will be good to get that all up and housed, and at least most of it out of the carport. I got the idea for this rack from the Workshop Diaries website, workshopdiaries.com. There's a lady called Shara who does that, and it's called Easiest DIY Lumber Rack. I'll put a link for the website in the description below if anyone else is interested. So this is the stash in the carport that we've got at the moment. The plywood that I picked up for making my mobile chicken housing, which I need to deal with, but this is what we're trying to deal with at the moment. These are the 2x4s that I'm going to be using. I just gave them a quick spray down with the hose because they had a bit of bird poop on and just lots of dirty, dusty bits from sitting around. So now they're drying out, which isn't ideal, but they're only just surface wet. They've been sitting around for ages, so I should still be able to measure them and cut them and then let them dry out a bit further. Oh no. See that? Let go. I checked that. Oh, Some of these 2x4s have got some quite bad knotty bits, or rough bits, so I'm trying to avoid those. So I've got my 2 long verticals and my 2 short verticals out of some of the better pieces, and I've got 3 of the rungs, so now I need 9 more rungs at 36 centimetres. I got all my pieces cut, my 2 longs, my 2 shorts, all my rungs, and a spare 36 centimetre rung to use as a spacer. And those are just spares over there, so hopefully everything will be all good. Since I wet the timber, it needs to dry out now, so I'll have to get back to it tomorrow or another day, but that's alright. I've set it up in the garage against the wall to dry out before I attach it to the wall. I don't really want to attach moist timber to each other. So everything's all there anyway, and the next part will be screwing the rungs into the verticals before I install the whole thing on the wall. We'll get back to that when we can.